Why cats and dogs are the most common animals on the streets. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the video to support us to submit more. Most of the episodes we are working on from your comments. To any extent, if he leaves his house, no matter what area he lives in, he must show a cat or a dog walking on the street. Even if you peep out of the balcony at any time in a large proportion, you glimpse a cat or a dog walking around us everywhere and in large numbers. And they are almost the most widespread animals in human societies. And the topic raises an important question. I mean countries in particular. Countries that are harmonious with humans and have to rest on the other. Is the topic just a coincidence? Or are there reasons that help for this? Welcome, and in this episode we will answer the question why cats and dogs are the most common animals on the streets. If we talk in the language of numbers, according to the latest estimates, the number of cats in the world exceeds the barrier of at least 600 million individuals, and dogs exceed the barrier of 900 million. And these are very huge numbers in zoology, especially when we talk about mammals. Means you can imagine that the number of wolves in the whole world, for example, who are cousins of dogs, ranges from 250,000 to 300,000 individuals, which from the same family of cats numbers did not exceed 4,000 individuals in the whole world. And the amazing lies in it. These animals have a better ability than cats and dogs, both in physical qualities and in behavior. But despite this, their numbers are constantly decreasing at a time when cats and dogs are almost conquering the world. Egypt alone, for example, has more than 20 million puppies or dogs, in addition to tens of millions of cats, and they are branched from 6 different species. But what is the reason for this? I mean, why are animals of such modest abilities able to spread in such an amazing way? The answer simply lies in the fact that they join the side of the strong side in the equation, namely humans, dogs, cats. They were able to establish a loving and friendly relationship with humans and thus became safe. And let's clarify the picture further. Think about which factor most negatively affects the life of any creature on the surface of the earth. The answer is without human thought. The expansion of human societies was the main reason for the lack of numbers of animals and plants, and even the extinction of some of them. Man comes from here, atrophies an environment that was natural, and then colonizes it, which in turn threatens animals and makes them migrate from one place to another amicably, because most animals do not like to be in a place where humans are. And it's not just about pets. Even predators are not left alone. If you follow the biography of wolves, you discover that in the past they were one of the most widespread mammals in the wild. But because of the persecution of humans for them, and because they broke into their living places, the range in which they are found began to decrease by 90%. In the midst of these models, cats and dogs played it right. Why keep away from humans? It would not be possible to live with them. And therefore I guarantee my presence in most places on the surface of the earth, and I have a huge stock of food resulting from human remains. And it was. Get to know the story of the domestication of cats and find out how cleverly they were able to break into the human environment and let humans out. At this time there was a large stock of crops and cereals, but unfortunately there were intrusive animals that constantly attacked the crop in the form of mice or rats. This issue was causing great inconvenience to farmers, and they wanted to get rid of it in any way. At the same time, they began to show a strange animal resembling a tiger, but small, approaching the cropland. But before they raised a weapon on him and attacked him like he does with all animals. In vain they noticed that by entering the storerooms he does not harm the crops and he catches mice. This was the first situation that brought together wild cats and humans, which they liked very much. So they started deliberately scaring the cats and offering them to eat violin in order for them to come and live with them in the same place. Cats for them at that time were a friendly treasure because they achieve a very difficult equation, a predator, but at the same time do not harm humans. Rodents attack small creatures and at the same time keep crops friendly, unlike wolves, foxes, and birdhumans alike. And therefore cats were the perfect choice. The relationship of cats with humans has evolved over time, and the admiration of humans for them began to increase to the point that they loved it being with them indoors as a pet. An amazing case is that an ancient cemetery was discovered on the island of Cyprus, whose age exceeds 9,500 years. The cemetery in which a child and a cat are buried is in the same place. This confirms the idea that people in ancient times were actually raising cats as a pet, and that the child in the cemetery was often attached to the cat, and therefore she was buried with him by moving from Cyprus to Africa, specifically to Egypt. The ancient Egyptians had an unusual imprint on the issue of domesticating cats, and this is because they not only raised her, they represented her in the form of a woman's body and a cat's head. And they even dedicated an entire city to be a center for the worship of cats, which is the city of Tel Basta, which exists currently in the city of Plover. The obsession of the ancient Egyptians with cats then spread to the whole world. The Phoenician merchants who were touring Egypt took cats from them and exported them to Europe and Asia in order to help them get rid of mice. And cats began to move from country to country by sailors, to some extent spread in most countries of the world. Almost one unit reached its current environment less aggressive towards humans, adapting to plant foods and starches that remain from human foods, but nevertheless still retained the fighting instinct and began to hunt mice and rodents with efficiency. By the way, do you notice before that in some cats, when they see Fran, he ignores them completely and does not attack them, and sometimes even in cats he is afraid of mice. You mentioned it before, or someone told you about it. Tell us in the comments, give us your opinion on this phenomenon, and please click like, because we are happy to reach the largest number of people. Subscribe and activate the bell if you are watching us for the first time. Back to our topic. Although dogs are one of the most widespread carnivorous animals in the wild, they had great difficulty competing with larger carnivores, such as leopards, tigers, and others. All the time they were attacked and bickering. But for thousands of years, wild dogs were approaching villages and cities in the northern hemisphere in order to look for the remnants of food at this time. Local residents were noticing a very strange need, which is that the place where he stays located, wolfhounds move away from him, and not only like that. Local residents also noticed that dogs do not attack sheep or their own cattle, and also do not attack humans, and for this they began to offer dog food in order to live with them and around the houses with their own. Over time, dogs began to have a role in herding livestock, guarding, hunting, and other tasks, and then they became a source of inspiration for many cultures in the Babylonian civilization. For example, they depicted dogs as a symbol of protection, loyalty, and vigilance, and they represented them in their beliefs as a goddess of healing medicine. And in China, Korea, and Japan, they were depicted as a symbol of generosity and giving. In Indian and European mythology, dogs are likened to guards of the gates of the underworld. All civilizations are talking about dogs. The ancient Egyptians were never silent. The ancient Egyptians had a widespread member of the canine family, a jackal, in their environment, and they worshipped his body in their beliefs with the god Anubis, who was responsible for mummification, which was in the form of a man's body and a dog's head, or rather the head of a jackal, which is a very famous inscription in tomb sculptures, especially the tomb of Tutankhamun. And in the end, another thing that made cats and dogs spread so much is that their reproduction rate is very high, about 60 days, and the female gives birth on average to 4 to 5 small puppies, and the average duration of pregnancy in cats broods about 60 days give birth on average from 2 to 4 petals. In addition to the factors mentioned above, I thought that their numbers were constantly increasing, unlike any other animal. Just don't forget to subscribe and like. And also, if I have a biggie question for you in the middle of the night and I don't find an answer to it, write it in the comments under the video in order for us to answer it in an upcoming video. Most of the episodes we are working on from your comments are peace.